Hello, people. I'm going to continue on with the Gospel of Thomas again. This is going to be verse 56. Whoever has come to know the world has found a corpse, and whoever has found this corpse, of him the world is not worthy. The corpse that you find as you wake up to what's really going on in the world, it could be a few things, really. A lot of stuff has kind of fallen apart and become a corpse in a way, like meditation in general. Meditation has been condemned largely and demonized, and so you may go to church and read this stuff and say, wow, where's the meditation? It talks about people doing these things, but what are they? This has been hidden from everybody. It's kind of dead to the world. This could be a corpse, the meditation itself that's been suppressed. The corpse could be the sort of fake illusion that's presented to us in general, the fakeness of the world. But I think the main thing is just that you see past the illusion of the world and you see what's really important, God's kingdom. And I think that this is kind of trying to say that whoever can see past the illusion and try to grasp what's real, like concerning God and spirituality and stuff, they're going to be above this world, or not worthy. The world's not going to be worthy of them because they've risen above it. They've seen through it. 57. Jesus says, "The kingdom is like the Father. The kingdom of the Father is like a person who had good seed. His enemy came by night. He sowed weeds among the good seed. The person did not allow the servants to pull up the weeds." So, the person here is supposed to be like God, who sowed the seeds, let people grow, and some bad people, the weeds, grew among them. This is trying to say that says he said to them, "Lest you go pull up the weeds, and you will pull up the weed along with it." It's saying just leave it, for on the day of harvest the weeds will be apparent and easier to pull up, and they will be burned. So it's like when it's judgment time, the bad people, the weeds, will be pulled up and burned. Jesus says, "Blessed is the person who has struggled. He has found life." I would say this is one of the, even though this is really short and sweet, this is one of the most important parts, I think, because this is trying to describe the struggle of overcoming obstacles and adversity in your life, and just in the Bible generally they talk about overcoming things. If your family told you you're terrible, don't despair. Seek out God and find your strength, and use Him for support when everything else fails. God favors this. People that figure out the illusion people that are punished for no reason, people that suffer and have to find God. With these people, God justifies man's fall from grace, man's disappointment, man's poor direction. (59) Jesus says, "Look for the living one while you are alive." That's God and Jesus. Trying to find them through your meditation, so that you will not die, and then seek to see Him. What that's saying is, in your meditation, don't just settle for less in your meditation. Try to go all the way and see Him every time. That means climbing all the way to the top of the chakras and then trying to get Him to appear. And then the last line it says, "You will not be able to see Him," which is sort of a play on words, because you do see Him, but He's protected by a bright light, so you can't distinguish what's Him and what's the light. But you know He's there, because there's always this silent messaging that you can, there's this silent communication going on. Verse 60, he saw a Samaritan who was trying to steal a lamb, and he was on his way to Judea. He said to his disciples, "That person is stalking the lamb." They said to him, "So he's doing it so he may kill it and eat it." So Jesus said to them, "As long as it is alive, he will not eat it, but only when he has killed it and it has become a corpse." So they said to him, "Otherwise he can't eat it." He said to them, "You too, look for a place for your repose or rests, so that you may not become a corpse and get eaten." This one, the corpse seems to be key here. For some reason they point out the corpse, which is a little strange. To be honest, I'm not sure exactly what this one's trying to say. Besides, it's saying, one thing it's saying is, I think it's trying to say, I think one thing it might be trying to say is try to bury yourself in a manner where you don't get eaten. But I don't really know if that's right or not. The obvious one is take care of where you rest, or you might get killed by something. But this probably has some kind of other weird significance, like if you do something bad, the devil will kill part of you or something, and you will become a corpse, and then you will become a victim because you have no protection from God. It may have some sort of meaning like that. Like, make sure you're protected by God, because if you're not, then you could just get eaten up. Because somebody could kill you and get eaten up. If you have no protection, you might be killed and eaten up. I don't see much more in that. I'm not sure. If somebody else has something, and chime in. Jesus said, 61, Jesus says, two rest on a bed, then one will die, the other will live. This is kind of weird because it's out of place. It says that, and then it just goes on to this different thing. It starts with, Salome said, so who are you, man? I'm pretty sure she's talking to Jesus. You have gotten a place on my couch as a stranger, and you have eaten from my table. Jesus said to her, I am the one who comes from the one who is always the same. One thing that we can gather from this is that the experience in meditation when you see God is always the same. It's always consistent, like it says here. It says, I am the one who comes from the one who is always the same. So this is how you know. Some people get afraid of trying to meditate and think that they might encounter the boogeyman or the devil or some monsters or something in their meditation, and it might scare them and freak them out. That's not something that you have to worry about. The only monsters at all that are going to jump out at you or anything are going to be aspects of you yourself. These are things that you can tame and deal with and stop them from misbehaving. But some people have this phobia about trying to meditate, like the devil's gonna get me if I, like, who am I meditating to? This is really not a concern at all. As long as your intentions are pointed in the right direction, then you will automatically go to God. Now, if you try to meditate on the devil or something, I have no idea what's going to happen. But as long as you meditate on Jesus, God, and do it the normal way religions tell you to, there's no chance of being taken over by a demon and stuff like that. Okay, so after it says that the experience when you meet God is always the same, it says, I was given some of that which is my Father's. And then the woman seems to say, I am your disciple. And Jesus says, therefore I say, if someone becomes like God, he will become full of light. Okay, I think what this is trying to say here too is, like, when you get into meditation and you complete it, you get to the top, you get the whole thing going, everything's running. When that happens, when your third eye opens, you get like a warm feeling all around. Your whole body becomes like warm and tingly. I like to think that your body is healing itself or something like that when it's happening. I don't think we really know what's happening, but when you do meditation, your whole body starts to feel warm and tingly, like it feels like sunshine on your skin, kind of like the tingly warmness. You feel that all throughout your body, and lots of times people describe that as it feels like being full of light or sunlight. Okay. So that's what it means when it says he will become full of light. There's also a double meaning here in that, of course you see the light. God appears as a bright light kind of thing. Then it says, but if he becomes one, separated from God, he will become full of darkness. So that's kind of saying that if you do bad things, you won't be able to get back into your meditation, and you won't be able to. You'll have to go through a lot to atone and stuff, at very least, and you won't be able to just go right back to your meditation. You'll have a blockage, and it'll be dark versus being bright. in your meditation, like literally. Jesus says, I tell my mysteries to those who are worthy of my mysteries. Whatever your right hand does, your left hand should not know what it's doing. This is a kind of a weird one that's said strangely. I have to say myself. This should be written not so terribly in my opinion, but they write these really hard to understand sometimes. What this is really mean is the first part's pretty straightforward. God only gives information to those that are aligned with Him. That is easy to understand. But this part, whatever the right hand does, your left hand should not know what it's doing. This is talking about, you would never know it, but this is talking about taking credit for things or not taking credit for things. When you do something, you forget about it. And like when Lao Tzu talks about this, he says, when you do something, if you just forget about it, then all is done. In other words, that is the way to do it. The wrong way to do it is to take credit for everything. Don't take credit for anything. Your left hand should never take credit for what your right hand is doing. Your left hand should always forget what your right hand is doing. In this way, you don't take credit for anything. In this way, you aren't expecting anything in return from anybody. And in that way, all is settled. And that's how you really earn karma points, is when you give without wanting something in return. This is another thing that God wants people to do above other things. God wants to help people to help each other without wanting something in return. Just for the sake of everything and everyone. To act as one love. Jesus says, there was a rich person who had many possessions. He said, I will use my possessions so that I might sow, reap, plant, and fill my storehouses with fruit, so that I will not lack anything. And this was what he was thinking in his heart, and that night he died. Whoever has ears should hear. So that's saying, listen to what was just said. And what was just said is, people that are overly concerned with material things and preparing for the future are neglecting the moment. And in doing everything wrong, basically, you can look at this situation and just pretty much say that the rich person did everything wrong. They were selfish. They weren't thinking of anybody else. They were just thinking about how to take care of themselves. They were so selfish they died. And when people die for these reasons that relate to behaving poorly, they die poorly, like that. (64) A person had guests, and when he had prepared a dinner, He sent his servant so that he might invite the guests. He came to the first and said to him, "My master invites you." He said, "I have bills for some of the merchants. They are coming to me this evening, and I will go give them instructions. Excuse me from my dinner." He came to another and said to him, "My master has invited you." He said to them, "I have bought a house, and I have been called away for a day. I will not have time." He went to another and said, "My master has invited you." That guy said, "My friend is going to marry, and I am the one who is going to prepare a meal. I am not going to be able to come. Please excuse me from the dinner." He came to another and said to him, "My master invites you." That guy said, "I have bought a village. Since I am going to collect the rent, I will not be able to come at all. Sorry." Then he said, then the servant went away back to his master and said, those who you invited to dinner have asked to be excused. Nobody's coming." Master said to his servant, "Go out on the roads. Bring back whoever you can find so they might have dinner. Dealers and merchants will not enter the places of my fathers." So, what this is saying is that even this small attachment to things that was listed here, with these people having these excuses to do these things, even that is enough to condemn you to being too aligned with material things and money. At the end it says, "These people will not enter my Father's kingdom." So these people that don't have time for dinner, they don't have time to discuss with friends what's going on in the village and stuff. They don't have the time to do anything except business that revolves around money and material things. That leaves them no time to do anything with God and no time to save themselves, right? So that's why they will not enter the kingdom of the Father, because all they have time for is material things. "65. He said, a user owned a vineyard. He gave it to some farmers so that he could work it and he might receive its fruits from them. He sent his servant so that the farmers might give them fruit from the vineyard. The people working the vineyard seized the servant and beat him and almost killed him. The servant went back and told his master. His master said, "Perhaps they didn't recognize you." So he sent another servant, and the farmers beat that same one as well. That one too, same way. Then the master sent his son instead and said, Perhaps they will show respect to my son, if not my slaves or something." But then those farmers, since they knew that he was the heir of the vineyard, they seized him and killed him. Whoever has ears should hear. Now this is a pretty straightforward, pointed verse at rich people, saying that rich people should not expect people to, they should not expect to claim land and have anybody that occupies it, to be servants of them. When you give somebody land to work, this is saying that you should not expect anything from them. You gave them the land to work, they are surviving off of the land. For you to try to claim that you are their master is a little bit over the top and probably get your son killed. Okay, like right here. So the guy was so arrogant, he thought that he owned all this stuff, he deserved everything. Everybody got beat up, his son killed, just because he had this entitled attitude. This kind of entitled attitude, especially regarding land, is really frowned upon in all the literature, because The land is seen as God's. This planet was created by God. It's considered God's. People that consider it theirs are confused. And when people become entitled about the land that they think they own, that God really owns, and God wants everybody to be able to use, that doesn't make God happy. 66, Jesus says, "Show me the stone that the builders have rejected. It is the cornerstone." Okay, this is the stone that the builder refused, right? Now, the builders here are not just anybody building something. The builders here that they're talking about, these are the big builders, the people that build empires, the people that build big cities, stuff like that. The people that build civilizations that aren't really civilizations, but they claim to be, which ignore God. And you notice how any of the large civilizations, they consist of organized religion for their source of God. There's always some guy with a bunch of jewels. It's ridiculous. These people know nothing about God. These people have never meditated at all. They know these people are so materialistic. Like, they're decked out in jewels and stuff. Somebody like that, no, God is going to flush you down the toilet when you try to meditate with. You're not going to get anywhere. So these people, they work for these empires and they act like religious people, but in reality, they're all completely fake. None of them do what Thomas is talking about in here. None of them connect to God at all. These are these civilizations that are fake. So what it's saying is that these builders that build these big empires and stuff, they never build on God's foundations. They never use God's cornerstones to build on anything. They always reject God's foundations, and they use their own, and they completely eliminate God and forget about Him. In fact, it's even worse because they act like they're with God, but they're really not. It's just a big dog and pony show. "67. Whoever knows all, if he is lacking one thing, he is already lacking everything." Now, this is one of those tricky things. It's hard to understand what it's saying. I think what this is saying is, if you don't know everything, you don't know all. Like, period. It's either one or the other. And I think what that's saying is that there's only one God. There's only one person that knows everything. And that's God. And nobody except God knows all. "68. Jesus says, "Blessed are you whenever they hate you and persecute you." Now this is talking about the regular, like the church I was just talking about. They demonize meditation. They find out you're connecting to God for real through meditation, they will demonize